It started with a hit to the face in the second quarter. Sonia Rivers came charging down the lane, but instead of finishing the play, she swung her arm and struck Kelsey Mitchell squarely across the jaw. Mitchell immediately collapsed to the hardwood, visibly shaken by the blow. For a moment, the entire arena fell silent, crowd gasping. Players frozen, and a strange tension settling over the court. Although the officials eventually called a foul, the hit felt like more than just a reckless mistake. It felt intentional. Kelsey Mitchell, a calm and consistent leader for the Indiana Fever, was down from the side of her teammates rushing her side while Rivers jogged away without so much as a glance stirred a deep emotional response. Not just from fans, but especially from Caitlin Clark. Clark didn't lash out at the refs. She didn't argue or posture. She responded in the most powerful way she knew, with her game. From that moment on, everything shifted. The tone of the contest transformed from routine to personal. It wasn't just basketball anymore, it was a statement. What followed wasn't about getting even with words or retaliation. It was about sending a message, loud and clear, through performance and precision. Be undeniable. That was the message Indiana sent after a rough start. The opening quarter began with pace, and Connecticut struck first. When the ball came loose in a scramble, Sonia Rivers snatched it and turned defense into instant offense sprinting, coast to coast and finishing effortlessly at the rim. It was a strong early statement from the Sun, but the Fever didn't blink. Caitlin Clark calmly responded, taking control almost immediately. After navigating the hard hedge near the top of the key, she kept her composure, drew a trap, and slipped. A crisp pass to Natasha Howard, who finished smoothly at the rim. That placed at the tone not just for Clark, but for Indiana's offense. It wouldn't be rushed. They'd run their sets with precision. Tina Charles had an answer of her own. For Connecticut, on a short roll, she caught the ball with her feet barely set, balanced on one leg, and floated in a mid-range jumper awkward yet perfectly executed. It was classic Charles, unconventional, but lethal. On the next possession, Clark stayed aggressive. She found Howard again, this time at the high post. Howard pivoted patiently, read the defense, and powered through contact for another clean finish. Every trip down the floor had intent, and the Fever were starting to find their rhythm. The Fever began to find their rhythm, and Caitlin Clark took over, drawing the defense high. She paused just enough to freeze her defender before bursting down the lane and kissing the ball off the glass for a smooth two. It was a quiet but precise statement, a moment that spoke volumes about her focus. The offense continued to hum. Clark found Lexi Hope cutting backdoor from the weak side and threaded a perfect bounce pass through a crowded lane. Hope caught it in stride, rose up, and knocked down a soft fadeaway jumper over her defender. Then Clark elevated her game even further after grabbing a defensive rebound. She launched a full-court outlet pass from behind half court. Already, streaking down the left wing, caught it in rhythm and buried a three without hesitation. Connecticut tried to respond. Clark was stripped near the top of the key, and Sonia Rivers capitalized, pushing the ball up to Tina Charles for an easy transition lane. Moments later, the Sun executed a clean high-low action, feeding Charles deep in the post, where she finished with her signature touch, continuing her impressive first quarter. Still, Indiana kept their poise. To close the quarter, Ari McDonald came off a handoff, immediately attacked the rim, keeping the Fever's momentum alive. Kelsey Mitchell got bumped on a floater attempt, drew the foul, and calmly sank both free throws. As the first quarter buzzer sounded, the Fever held a slim 29-28 lead, but it was the tempo, spacing, and poise they displayed that hinted at something bigger quietly brewing. The second quarter opened with a jolt of defensive energy. Caitlin Clark read the passing lane perfectly, jumped in front of a lazy swing pass, and bolted in transition with a clear path to the basket. She surged toward the rim, but just as she went up to finish, J.C. Sheldon closed the gap and reached across Clark's arms. The foul sent Clark to the line, where she split the pair, nudging Indiana back in front. Soon after, the Fever got another lift from Mitchell, who salvaged her broken possession with pure grit. After cutting backdoor, the ball was nearly stripped from her, but she stayed focused, recovered quickly, and flipped in a tough finish off the glass. That kind of persistence defined Mitchell's performance throughout the quarter. Indiana continued leaning into their two-woman actions at the top of the key, and it paid off once more, this time with Mitchell working off a handoff. She froze. Her defender, with a quick hesitation, rose up and knocked down a smooth mid-range jumper that sliced clean through the net. The momentum was beginning to shift in Indiana's favor. The Fever found her flow, and Caitlin Clark once again stepped into the spotlight, coming off a familiar handoff. She added a subtle hesitation that froze both defenders, then sliced through the lane for an effortless finish. Her timing and feel for spacing turned a routine play into a defensive breakdown, but Connecticut wasn't backing down. Bria hardly answered with one of the flashiest plays of the half shaking her defender, with an in-and-out dribble, slipping behind the back, and stepping into a deep three to drop cleanly through the net. It was a sharp reminder that the Suns still have plenty of offensive weapons. On the next trip, J.C. Sheldon refused to screen, kept the play alive, and drew both defenders before whipping a hook pass to Tina Charles, who had popped open at the elbow. Charles knocked down a smooth, long two, adding to her already strong night. Hartley came right back, pushing the tempo in semi-transition. She decelerated with another slick behind the back move, and pulled up from deep this time with the defender in her face and still nailed the three. Indiana needed to answer, and it was Kelsey Mitchell who delivered. She attacked the open court with a flurry of crossovers, danced past her defender, and finished with a silky left-handed layup off the glass. halting the Sun's surge and steadying the Fever once again. The Fever closed the half on a high note when Kelsey Mitchell attacked a closeout, recognized the help defense rotating early, and kicked the ball out to Sophie Cunningham, who was left wide open at the arc. Cunningham didn't hesitate. She stepped confidently into the pass and drilled a three-pointer. By halftime, Indiana clung to a narrow 40 for the 40 lead, and the atmosphere in the arena matched the intensity on the court, tense and physical. The third quarter began with Connecticut looking to shift the momentum, and they struck quickly with crisp ball movement. Sonia Rivers drew the defense toward the wing and swiftly swung the ball to Bria Hartley at the top of the key. Hartley, still riding the rhythm from her earlier scoring, didn't blink. She rose in stride and nailed another three. Tina Charles followed that up with a vintage move, catching the ball deep in the post, taking one hard dribble into her defender, and launching a graceful, one-legged hook shot that floated cleanly through the net, reminiscent of an old-school skyo. Smooth, confident, and perfectly executed. But Indiana had answers of their own. They executed a beautifully timed backdoor cut, with Lexi Hull slipping behind her defender on the weak side. In one fluid motion, she delivered a slick behind the back pass to Natasha Howard, who finished. Strong at the rim, it was yet another efficient poised bucket from Howard. Still, Connecticut wasn't done. They responded right away, refusing to let the game slip. Ass check. Tina Charles, working off the pick and pop, found just enough room to set her feet and knock down a smooth long two from the elbow, keeping the Sun within striking distance. But Indiana's defense kept humming. Moments later, Aliyah Boston stepped into the role of facilitator, positioned near the free throw line. She patiently waited for Natasha Howard to make her move. The timing was flawless. Boston dropped the bounce pass right into the lane, and Howard converted again, pushing her total to 17 points and showing no signs of slowing down. Connecticut tried to keep pace with smaller plays off a baseline and bound. Bria Hartley located Leia Lacan near the edge of the paint. Land took a single dribble and hit a soft jumper, narrowing the gap. But it was Caitlin Clark's core vision that once again gave the Fever some breathing room, with the defense overcommitting to the perimeter. Clark spotted Sophie Cunningham slipping behind the arc and delivered a pinpoint bounce pass through the back line. Cunningham caught it in motion and finished with ease. The Sun answered. Another burst of energy as Anna Marrow used a quick first step to explode past her defender, finishing strong at the rim. But Indiana had the last quality look at the quarter. Aliyah Boston went to work in isolation, backing down her defender, before rising into a soft, high-arcing fadeaway that dropped cleanly through the net, capping off another efficient stretch. For the Fever, by the time the horn sounded, Indiana held a narrow 60 for the 60 lead, and the momentum was beginning to shift in their favor. The stage was set for a tense, high-stakes finish with just 10 minutes left on the clock. The Fever went right back. Their most trusted formula, Caitlin Clark, and Aliyah Boston running their signature woman action. On the short roll, Boston popped to her sweet spot near the elbow, and Clark delivered the pass right in stride. Boston calmly knocked down the 15-footer, a shot they've executed all season with quiet precision. But Connecticut wasn't backing down. Their response came through sheer chaos. After a scramble for a loose ball, Rebecca Allen emerged from the pile and quickly found Leela Land wide open on the wing. The rookie didn't hesitate. She let the three fly. It dropped cleanly just as the whistle blew. The ref signaled a foul, giving Land a chance at a rare 4-point play, though she missed the free throw. Still, she wasn't done. Moments later, Land found herself in transition, gave a smooth shot fake that sent the defender flying, then stepped through and finished at the rim, marking her 15th point and setting a new career high. The Sun wisely kept feeding their rising star, sensing her confidence was only growing. This time, Anna Marrow took advantage of the mismatch, posting up against a smaller defender and sealing hard in the paint. Tina Charles spotted it instantly and lofted a perfectly timed block. Over the top, Marrow caught it in stride and finished, with ease a veteran to rookie connection that gave the Sun a brief burst of life. But Indiana wouldn't fold. Aliyah Boston responded by drawing a hard foul down low and calmly sinking both free throws to regain control. Caitlin Clark followed with a pivotal moment, working off the screen, slowing her dribble to freeze the defense, and then floating in a soft runner off one foot. It was a subtle but clutch bucket that halted Connecticut's momentum. On the very next play, Sophie Cunningham jumped the passing lane for a clean steal and pushed the ball ahead to Clark on the break. Clark absorbed the contact and went to the line, knocking down both free throws. The Fever were starting to pull away. Then came the shot that sealed the ship. Clark found herself wide open, and Duana Bonner fired a crisp pass her way. Without hesitation, Clark let it fly and drained the three, with the defender arriving a step late. It was the kind of dagger that silences crowds and signals the game is slipping away. Leela Land tried to stop the bleeding by drawing a foul and hitting 2 free throws, but the Fever had already found their closer. They weren't looking back. An over-aggressive defender bumped Caitlin Clark unnecessarily late in the game, and she responded with poise, calmly sinking to more free throws with the win nearly sealed. Clark delivered the finishing blow, reading the defense perfectly. She spotted Kelsey Mitchell slipping behind the line on a backdoor cut and threaded a flawless bounce pass for an easy layup. As the crowd rose to its feet and the final seconds ticked away, Indiana closed the game on their terms, composed, efficient, and unfazed by the noise. The final score read 85-77, but the real story was in the poise and leadership Indiana displayed down the stretch. The moment that defined this game wasn't just in the scoreboard. It came back in the second quarter, when Mitchell took a hard hit to the face. While that moment can have unraveled a lesser team, it instead lit a fire. And it was Clark who answered not with drama or retaliation, but with execution. She didn't raise her voice or retaliate with a cheap shot. She used her skill, her tempo, and every possession to respond with impact. By the final horn, Indiana had secured the win. But more importantly, Clark had made one thing clear: if you come after her teammates, you'll answer to her not with words, but with buckets.